All right, everyone, hello. Today we're going to be going over story writing and lore. It's not a topic we usually cover too much in the club. It's not big enough for it to be like a whole workshop topic, so it'll be the topic of today's general meeting. First off, we have some announcements. Here's the sign-in form for this meeting. I'd like to remind you all that there are now 3 prizes in the pool, so it is more likely for you to win now, especially if you are a VIP member. So make sure you fill it out. It helps us out a lot, and you might win a cool little prize at the end of the month.
This is my favorite announcement.
Of course it is.
I can't even win from it. What do you mean, of course it is?
All right, I'll give people a couple more seconds to sign up. Okay. It's also at the end, so don't worry if you missed it. For this week's workshop, we will not be doing anything. That is because we have the Halloween Horror Collaborative Game Jam this weekend with a bunch of the other CSU universities in Southern California. It'll be starting on the 18th, which is Friday, and then going up until that Sunday, the 20th, 10 a.m. I've already gone over all the rules before. If you do not remember them, just scan the QR code, which will take you to the Discord, and you can read the rules and sign up. You can sign up until the 19th. It is, our side of this event is going to be virtual, meaning that we will not be having a meeting room. Obviously, if you sign up for the team, you're free to meet up wherever you want or just do it at home, whatever works for you. And participation will earn you 2 monthly raffle entries or 4 if you're a VIP member. Right. So another thing we have coming up is a special FragFest opportunity. So if you are a team lead, I'll kind of explain this in greater depth later, but essentially we have been invited to demo a couple of our game pitch games made this semester at FragFest this semester, so there'll be a few tables for you to present your game and demo it, as well as allow live playtesting if you have a buildable version of your game. So it is for people, it's for the pitches that are pretty close to being done, to the point where they could package their game and have a working product even if it's not finished yet. We don't expect it to be finished, but it's an opportunity to get some live playtesting from people who are not part of the club but who are familiar with video games. So that will be something that will be coming up in November. As usual, we have merchandise. I go over it every week, so I'm going to skip over it. If you're interested in merchandise, there's an order form right here. It'll also be posted in the announcement as usual. And of course, if you wish to become a VIP member and you have not yet already chosen to be one, you get the club shirt for free, as well as a bunch of other benefits, including discounts on merchandise, extra raffle entries, priority for studio tours and other events, and more. So now we're going to talk about story writing.
Wow, that's very orange.
Yeah, it is very orange, my bad.
Maybe I should turn down the mood light.
Yeah, what is a story? So I'm not going to go over this too crazily because most people get this, but a story is essentially a sequence of related events told from one or more perspectives. Most stories follow a single perspective, but oftentimes I'm sure you guys have seen stories where there are multiple perspectives throughout the story from different characters or a narrator or whatever. Events can occur either explicitly or implicitly. The important thing to know about this is that it is very important that you properly utilize the ability to tell a story, because implicit storytelling is useful but can leave readers confused. And then if you're too explicit with telling everything as it happens, you'll leave people feeling like they're an idiot because you're spoon feeding them every piece of information. Also, a lot of the power in storytelling comes in the subtlety of events transpiring. So we'll talk about this more later. Just keep in mind that you do not always have to say this happens and then that happens and then that happens and so on and so forth. So while classifications for stories based off of length exist, there are no real length minimums or maximums for a story. There are some stories that are pretty famous, made by like Ernest Hemingway and stuff, that are only a few sentences long. And then obviously people are familiar with novels that span like hundreds of thousands of words that are like multiple books and whatnot. The only thing that a story really needs to have are a few key components. So these are typically condensed down into 5 attributes. That is the setting. So where does a story take place? Does it take place in one location, multiple? Usually this is one of the first things you learn about in a story, just given by details. You have plot. The plot is just a sequence of events that a story consists of. The conflict, which is what are the challenges faced by the focal point of the story. That could be a character or something else, but usually a story focuses some kind of central conflict where certain things are preventing the protagonist or the central objective from reaching a sort of goal. Then there are the characters in your story. There can be one or more. Typically there's more, but you can theoretically have a story with just one character and some basic conflict. And lastly, as a theme, the whole point of telling a story is to achieve some kind of goal, to make a point. So most stories have a message, and the central or recurring idea is typically the theme of that story. A good story will be very good at emphasizing the theme without making it too much of a drag, just like going over it again and again without blatantly saying the message of the story is blank, and then later on being like the message of the story is this kind of thing. So another thing about stories is that they typically fall into a series of archetypes. You have stories that are categorized based off of the kind of events that transpire. So you have tragedies, you have comedies, you'll have like the hero's journey is another popular one. There are a lot of them. I will not go over all of them, not only because there are so many, but that's not the point of what we are talking about today. As I've kind of already stated, they kind of provide a skeleton for how the stories can take place. So if I have 2 or 3 different stories about the hero's journey, you can expect the character starts off either really weak or really strong, but some event happens that prevents them, that makes them realize that whatever they currently have is not enough, and that they need to go through essentially some sort of transformation. They'll get more powerful throughout the story, and then there'll be, again, that critical event where they're not strong enough and they'll realize some kind of fatal flaw. They'll overcome that flaw, and then they'll, defeat the ultimate enemy or do whatever, and that is the end of that story. I'm sure you can think of a lot of examples of that. They usually follow that sequence more or less exactly, but since this is just the big idea, there's a lot of freedom in how the minor details are expressed, which allows these stories to be really different. So that's the same way, like I said, for like things like comedies and tragedies, you can kind of know how the general, I guess, vibe of the story will be without the entire story just being very self-evident just because it's from a particular archetype. Like I said, it's not something we normally talk about just because it's not very important. It's just something that if you're talking about storytelling, you might as well notice that they do, or might as well mention that they have archetypes. So, because we are working with games, we're actually in a very privileged position where we have multiple ways of telling a story. We're not forced into one perspective or even a linear storytelling experience in the same way that a book or a movie, it's only capable of portraying a series of events as they happen in the same way in the same order every time. So that will include things like dialogue. So this is the most basic and common form of conveying information about a story and its characters in a game. It'll be done through it can be a text box on the bottom of the screen, or cutscenes or other forms of showing characters interact with each other and driving the story forward. We have texts. This is going to be like inscriptions on statues or walls. It can be books. It could be any other form of physical text that actually exists in the in-game world. The whole point of these texts is usually to embellish either some part of the story. It could be the main story. It could be part of a side quest. It just essentially allows for the optional ability to gain greater insight onto some aspect of the story, in part or in whole. You have environmental storytelling. This is more so on the artistic side of things. You can utilize the environment to tell a story. So oftentimes you can see that in very simple ways. If you have a destroyed building and your game is about some kind of war or something, you're able to kind of show off the destruction and the way the war has changed people's lives just by showing, again, visually the destruction that has occurred without blatantly telling the reader, observer, hey, this war is bad, hey, things are happening. You actually just show it off through the environment naturally. Games will also do this to pretty decent effect for events that might be a little bit harder to show without being needlessly graphic, like deaths and stuff are usually implied through environmental storytelling or having some kind of clear indication that something happened, but you were not there to witness it. So maybe you'll see it in like a dungeon, there'll be like blood on the wall or something like that. Lastly, you have lore, which is basically everything about the story that has already happened in the past, but is important context for where things are currently, wherever point you're at in the story. So this is all going to be essentially passive information. Again, things that you can't really change, but had happened before the story began, and kind of give context for why things are the way they are presently. And the last thing we're going to talk about is actually storytelling pitfalls. So the reason we talk about this is because while I could sit here and tell you guys how to write a story, first of all, most of you guys know how to write a story, I would imagine. It's such a common aspect of human culture that it's not something that needs to be told. Second of all, stories are really, really diverse in the sense that you can't really say this is how you write a good story and this is the only way. There's like a bajillion different ways to write a story, and going through each and every example would be long, boring, and I can't, like I said, I can't even begin to talk about all those topics. So instead, I'll talk about common story pitfalls that I've seen, and you guys have also probably seen, and some of our board members have seen just in media, and in games in general. Just going over them because it's important to know that while there's a great deal of freedom in writing a story, there are some things that are done really, really poorly that really hurt people's ability to enjoy your story. So essentially, again, when you're telling a story, if a certain shortcut are taken or improper considerations, or you improperly consider like what is going on, you're gonna end up with a really bad result. So this can take the form of the overuse of tropes. So again, going back to archetypes, a lot of archetypes will have tropes. You'll have like maybe the old man or the really young child who's like secretly really wise or really powerful, and they're able to push the story forward in an unexpected moment just because they secretly had this power. Or you'll have like the really overconfident, overpowered one, or there's so many examples I can give here. But essentially, when your story's too tropey, not only does it make it predictable, but it could also make it really insipid. So while it's fine to have tropes in a story, just be careful of how you use them, just because they are a nice use as like stock characters to give you inspiration. But if your story's full of tropes, most people will call you out on that. I'm sure you guys see that in movies and stuff as well. Then you'll have moments of undeserved emotional payoff. This happens, in my opinion, really bad in games where they'll improperly flesh out a character and then try to show them essentially achieving their goal and completing their arc or getting killed off. In both examples, this can be done really poorly, again, if you don't properly flesh out your character. So in games, oftentimes they want to make it emotional or edgy, and so they'll introduce you to a character, and then like 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes later, they'll just kill them off, and you're like, I don't even feel sad. I'm just really confused as to what the whole point of that was. And it was just that they're trying to go for cheap points to try to make you feel something because they didn't have ideas of how to actually, I guess, talk about a more difficult topic or embellish a character without just kind of lazily going about introducing them and then immediately killing them off for no reason. Again, for the more positive side of things, if you have a character who has a goal, let's say they wanted to become, I don't know, like the best swordsman in the world or whatever, and they really quickly or really inexplicably reach that goal, you're going to be confused as to what they actually did to accomplish their goal or why it took them so long and why did it suddenly happen over the course of a short time. Or you're going to be confused by, like, why should I care? I didn't really get to know this person, like, good for them. But usually the whole point of having characters with really well fleshed out backgrounds and traits is that you want to feel, essentially empathize with them. You want to feel what they feel when they finally reach those events, go through those highs and lows, just so that the story is more impactful for you. This point was not introduced by me, but lazily wrapped up loose plot threads. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if you want to talk about this more, Dachi. Essentially.
I introduced this one as in a fit of anger, in a fit of madness while I was thinking about Yakuza 8. One of the most, it's not per se a spoiler, but a great example of this is they mentioned a really small side issue happening as part of the main story sometime through half the game. And then events transpire where they completely forget about this moment and move on all the way to the finale, halfway through the final long battle, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, right, we gotta go save this guy's kid. He's right here. So that's what they do and wrap it up as if there was some sort of progression throughout this, when in reality, they mentioned it once as like a way to garner emotional connection to one of the characters in the game, and then completely forgot about it.
Nice. So yes, the last thing I'll reiterate here is that another way this can happen is essentially at the very beginning of writing a story or while storyboarding, writers will come up with a lot of ideas for where they want the story to go or aspects they want to have. And then for one reason or another, they lose inspiration or they run out of time to kind of fit it in without it feeling too contrived. And that kind of leads to them wanting to quickly wrap it up so the story feels complete once it finishes, and it doesn't end up paying off and it just feels really awkward and poorly thought out. So, and this is another big one that people often talk about, and I feel like this also happens fairly often in games, especially if you're looking at stories for games that have a, let's say, a lower level of quality associated with them, like gacha games, is telling, not showing. So, essentially, certain games, I'm not calling out any games, but certain games
You should
will
call 'em
like,
out.
no, it's okay. Certain games
You really should.
will refuse to actually consider the fact that people have eyes, and it's great. It's very considerate for the people who are not able to see that they do this. But for those of us who have eyes, it is nice to actually be able to see things happen instead of throwing up, for example, a black screen with text on it, or trying to otherwise literally just outright completely stop the progression of a story and explain things to you as if people were not able to understand or see, or not even taking the effort to actually, like I said, use those powerful world building tools to kind of show off things happening. Do not just tell people what's happening. The whole point of having, like, for example, a movie or a game is that you're able to show things off. You don't have to just blatantly say it like it's a book. In a book, obviously, all you have is text, so all you can do is tell, but even then, they have a lot of techniques for making a very interesting way of introducing ideas or exploring topics. Again, so very easy pitfall. Please, whenever you can, show something. Do not just say it. Obviously, there's times where you have to say it, but try to avoid it when possible. And it kind of leads into this next point, which is treating the observer like an idiot. People usually get really annoyed or disengaged from a story if something very obvious happens, but since the implication was technically slightly subtle, they will then, after it happens, kind of give you an in-game recap of like, this just happened, and it's like, wow, I had no idea. It's not like I just watched it play out for like the past 5 minutes, you know? You want to make sure that you aren't just retelling what has already happened just because you're afraid that the audience might not have gotten it. Because believe it or not, that in itself is actually a sign of bad writing. If you're writing something and you're like, they wouldn't get it, then you probably didn't write it right. That's kind of all I have to say about that topic.
The picture of the Joker, you wouldn't get it.
Yeah. And then this is another one that a certain game might have issues with, and that is confusing story terminology with lore. If I throw up a bunch of fantasy made-up terms that may or may not actually mean something, but then use them in the context of my game to kind of explore ideas, that is not going to look very good. So if I say like, I can't even think of any game where they just come up with like borderline buzzwords like, oh, this is my quantum world schism that separates the world from the sides of light and dark and blah, blah, blah. It's like, if you make a bunch of words, that isn't necessarily in and of itself lore. It's nice to give things names. I'm not saying don't give things names. Obviously, in English, whenever we're introduced to a new topic, we expect a new word that may not have any predefined meaning to kind of encapsulate that new topic, but don't just throw them out there like just as often as possible just to try to make a game seem deep or complicated, because not only will most people get confused if they bother to even read it at all, but it just looks really dumb when you have all these words that don't even really help embellish a story when they're, like, again, they make sure that the topic is actually there. Don't just throw attached words to it and think it makes it sound cooler. I think there's a couple more. Yes, okay. This one is also, unfortunately, happens in games a lot. This makes more sense for budgeting and pacing reasons. Not giving critical moments enough time to settle and develop. So oftentimes when games try to do arcs, they might not have enough time to fully set up the scene, like explain the setting and the characters and build things up, and then let the climax happen and then the falling action occur afterwards so that it feels like it was a very well-rounded experience. Oftentimes, somewhere, there will be an issue. Either they didn't build characters up enough, and then the conflict happens, and you're like, I don't know what's going on, and I don't really care about these characters much, and then the rest happens. Or there's a long build-up to a conflict, then the conflict happens, and it's over, like, almost immediately, and then you're at the, like, basically epilogue of the story. It's like, okay, that also didn't feel right. And then the one that's probably the least offensive but still a problem is when you have a good build-up and then a good conflict climax, and then like the moment the killing blow is landed on the big bad or whatever, it immediately ends. It's like, okay, that was a little jarring, but at least the story more or less got told. And usually people appreciate it when you kind of use that like falling action and epilogue to kind of wrap up all of the loose ends and kind of give people their like after story, so you can kind of see how things go, and you're like, okay, that was enough for me to enjoy the story. It makes it feel complete. I think there's a couple other pitfalls we can talk about, but I'm going to move on just so that we have enough time for this activity. I think we have a good amount of time. And that we're going to try an interactive exercise. Hopefully it works. I'm skipping past that slide because sorry, it is very
orange flashbang. It's like a car coming right at you.
It was supposed to be Halloween themed. It was
Halloween
themed. It is
themed.
scary.
You scare him when the car comes after
Yeah,
you.
hello. So I'm going to try a storytelling exercise. Hopefully this works out. So I would like for you guys to pick one of the following topics and make slides to present up here, because I think talking about it is better as an interactive thing than me just sitting here and yapping about it for 50 minutes straight. So if you're making a game pitch, you can kind of explain some of the story or lore ideas you've had for a game, why you decided to organize it this way, like what are the main ideas, what we were hoping to accomplish with the story. If not that, you can look at a game or book, or I guess movie, story that you've experienced, and you thought there was at least one thing wrong with it, and you want to explain why you thought that was wrong, and then what you would have done instead, and why you think that would have improved the story. I have a feeling that this one will be the most likely for people to choose, just because I'm sure most people, again, have some kind of gripe with the story they've experienced, and would like to get it out in front of a group of people who probably have no idea what they're talking about. And I'm definitely not referring to a single individual here. Anyway, so
I don't know what you're talking about. Get on with it.
yeah. Then the last one, this one is more so just so you guys have variety.
Canon.
I don't really expect anyone to do this, but you can, if you have nothing else to do but want to participate, you can make up lore for Des. It probably won't be canon. I think we technically have lore for them that Sam made, and then we never really got clarified. Like, Melvin, do you actually know?
We had a competition last year.
But yeah, but then nothing happened, right?
Nothing ever happened.
I guess it's canon. That's for us to say, right?
I know,
Okay,
but
but
I
what?
never saw it. I never saw it. That's what I'm saying, though.
Wait, it's in the drive, isn't it?
I'll check.
I guess we'll find out later.
Either way, you can,
We don't even know our
you
own
can-
mascots, bro.
You can write a Des fan fiction to your heart's content, I suppose. Make
Heart's
it appropriate.
content. You can't tell them that.
Okay, make it appropriate.
That's
Again,
more like it.
so this is not a critiquing session. So if you do have the courage to come up here and share one of these three topics, which I hope you guys will do, we're not here to heckle you or laugh at you. We're going to respectfully listen and appreciate the input you have for us. So yeah, that will be mostly for us to moderate. But again, you can work a team of up to 3. The reason for that, which means 4 people in total, the reason for that is because I'm thinking if we have enough groups that maybe I do like a little prize for like we'll vote and who on what we thought was the best or most impactful or funniest or whatever, and then it'll be anonymous, and then I'll give out a club notebook to each member of the team that won, and maybe that poster. That being said, yeah, that's it. So
Green flashbang.
I'll leave the sign-in sheet up for those who may have missed it. Oh yeah, there's another announcement I want to make really quickly. You guys can start organizing to groups if you want for the activity or figuring that out. But we do have a club LinkedIn. I will be posting it in the announcement following this meeting. We're gonna actually try to get it going just because I think it's a lot easier for you to connect with the industry professionals we invite if there's a club LinkedIn page where we can organize like just for them to post their profile so you can immediately follow instead of posting links everywhere, as well as kind of highlight news of things going on in the gaming industry. Maybe if we see an opportunity that you guys might be interested in or something, we can post it to our page, and that way it's just another way for us to kind of disseminate information to you guys that's on the more professional side of things and not on Discord, as great as Discord is. So that's kind of it. I just wanted to mention that really quickly. But like
Yeah, I
said,
could repost our own LinkedIn post so my LinkedIn isn't empty.
Alright, so that's it. Like I said,
Turn the lights on.
yeah, go ahead. I'll give this
Prepare your eyes.
yeah. If people wanted this activity, I would say it's we have like 25 minutes. So I guess to get started. But yeah, that's kind of it for this week. Also, I'll announce that next week we will not be having a meeting because the Science Carnival Spooky Bash will be happening during U hour. So from our normal club meeting time, 12 to 12:50, you can go out into the quad right there in front of Building 8 and play some very
Not
crudely
video
made,
games.
yes, some very crudely made carnival games and hopefully win some prizes. So that's where we will be because we are obligated to attend to that event.
Pro tip: come to ours.
Yes, we will be hosting. Are we allowed to mention the games we're hosting?
Why are we staring down Melvin, bro?
No, I'm talking to Erica. That's she.
It looks like everyone looked at Melvin.
No, I was looking at Erica because. Okay, we are hosting a kind of like dart. It's like a dartboard game, but darts were too violent.
Minus the pointy tips because
Yeah,
you guys
so-
are irresponsible.
So you will not be impaling your fellow schoolmates. You'll instead have
Pause.
Velcro. Shut up. Velcro ping pong balls. You have Velcro ping pong balls against a felt board, and you'll just try to score points based off of like the zone in the board you hit. We'll be awarding tickets based off of that, and if I recall correctly from last year, you were able to redeem tickets for prizes, including thermoses, backpacks, food, and some other things. So yeah, that will be all for today. Thank you guys.
Was that Sans on your phone?
All right, we have some Desler. You guys can come up and present it if you want. Oh no.
We'll stand for support, yeah. We'll stand there for moral support. You got this. We'll skip
I haven't even played 5 minutes.
We'll do next. It's okay. I don't think I mean, I did, but like I'm scared of it. So. Oh. I don't even know. Okay, ready? Okay.
Welcome to Desmore, better known as Nights at Freddy's.
Purple.
Is that basically
The first president.
the first president of Game Dev Club, which I don't even know who that is.
Me either.
What was it?
I don't even. Yeah, we believe that after his term, he he takes the souls of the next president.
He turned into Dez, and now in order to keep the Game Dev Club alive, he consumes every president's soul in order to gain immortality.
And these are past victims.
So our big question is, what happened to our previous presidents
Real
after
ghosts.
retirement? Have you seen them?
Actual ghosts.
Where did they go?
Mass hysteria.
The truth is that their souls were consumed by Dez.
You can see.
I hate how I took that picture for like a job like 3 years ago. And then somehow became the picture.
So now we believe the next victim is gonna be our very own president this year. So it's gonna be Aiden. And good luck with that. We're gonna see you as Des. With our own theory that he's gonna be Des Afton, and it just gets consumed every time. And this is the conclusion of our slides. We know what you are, Des, and every other past president, you should know your lore. But that's all. Thank you.
That was a big group, but we can make the price work still because we have a lot of notebooks. Did you guys win?
Alright, and then story thing.
All right, this was from.
Damn, you just told they lost. Oh, we got 8 minutes.
Alright, be quick.
Okay, this is Plague. This is a game I'm going to be pitching next spring. I mean, this spring, you know. So there's this guy. He's a plague doctor. He helps people. He heals them. His dad's also a king. He got to kill that guy because that king abandoned him and his mom. That's not okay. Sequence of his trauma. Mom died, and he hates him now. See, look at him. He got to get noticed by his king in order to get close to him to harm him. So what does he do? He has to heal those sick losers to get noticed. He lives at the King's Castle. That's the next event. Okay. And there's also a prince. Forgot to mention that. And yeah, he got him, and GG's. He's the winner. Go, dude. Bye-bye.
Okay, was there any other submissions?
So, did you ask if people had questions?
Are there any other submissions?
Oh, okay.
I should though elaborate.
All right, there's one more.
Right?
Blueberry. Okay.
On Canva.
Right.
Close.
Shirley, okay, great.
Do the sacrifice for this one?
Accept all cookie dough and then
Sorry.
do it the hard way. Okay. I wonder if this, no, it's projected. I'm sorry. I'm speaking into the mic. There are people on Discord. Okay. Okay, so I know this is a game design club, but how many people here like fruits or vegetables? That's a surprising amount, very high, way above my expectations. Okay, so your friend Barry loves vegetables. In fact, he loves them so much, he's a farmer. He owns an entire farm about vegetables. So you pay a visit to your friend Barry, that's you. You get named Emily. That's a great name for someone who dies in horror movies. Okay, your name is Emily, right? You visit your friend Barry, but you get there, it's nighttime, and the vegetables are alive. Barry is a walking blue goblin berry. I don't know what he is, but Blueberry, that's the name of the game. So recently you see a lot of like AR horror games, so this is going to be one of those. It's going to be like a real bleak environment. So that's the entire theme of it. Like there'll be a day-night cycle. The vegetables will come alive. Barry's like witchcraft. He loves fruits so much that he's experimented on them and they're alive, and you're trying to escape his farm. So Blueberry,